Okay, we're back with more Blackboard work for you. Let's dive right in and take a look at parsing more forms of just our paradigm verbs, in this case luo, primarily in the perfect tense, and also lambano in the aorist tense, which is interesting because lambano actually takes the second aorist form, or elabon. That's a verb meaning to take. Okay, so let's just jump right into it here and see if we can start making sense of what these forms are. And again, if you know your principal parts, this is going to be fairly straightforward to get through. Okay? If you don't know your principal parts, you're going to quickly find yourself out to sea on this. So please start studying your principal parts if you've not been doing so already. I've hoped you've been doing it for several weeks now, at least. But you know, please get into that, because it's not going to be possible for you to do this well, I think, without knowing them. Okay, so leluka. Leluka is simply your what? That's your fourth principal part of luo. Okay, your fourth principal part we know now is your perfect. Okay, so this is simply what? A first person singular perfect active indicative. Okay? A first singular perfect active indicative. Okay, hopefully that one's pretty clear. Okay. Number two, lelutai. Lelutai. Well, remember your maisai tai methasai antai. When do you see the maisai tai methasai antai? Whenever something is a middle or a passive form, and indeed that's what this is. Okay. This is built off of lelumai, which is what? That's actually your fifth principal part, which what? That gives the perfect middle passive forms. Okay? So lelutai is simply going to be what? That's going to be your third plural, because remember mai, sai, tai, 1, 2, 3, so third, not plural, third singular, I'm sorry. Third singular, perfect, but what? Middle, or what? What else could it be? It could also be passive too, couldn't it? Okay, this form, like for the presence in the imperfects, is ambiguous, okay, and it's an indicative. Okay, all right. Lelumatha, lelumatha. What do we notice about this one? Well, again, maisai tai methasai antai first, so we see the middle passive ending there. But even before that, we should notice, first of all, the stem lu, that tells us it's from luo. But notice the reduplication here. What does that signify? The reduplication is a hallmark of the perfect. Okay, and I should have pointed it out here and here also. Okay, the second hallmark of the perfect active would be the kappa. That's usually what you see in the perfect, although not always. Okay, so anytime you see reduplication, you should think perfect. Okay, so indeed this is what we have here. So you've got a perfect, and what do we have? A first plural perfect. Get rid of those ugly red lines there for you. Perfect middle, okay, or what? Could also be passive too, couldn't it? Okay, very good. Moving on along. Okay, elelukesan, elelukesan. What form is this? Well, there's a reduplication here and a kappa, which suggests perfect, but there's also something weird about this one. You've got an augment, and you don't have any augment in the perfect, nor do you have an ending like keisan. You would have maybe an ending like kan, but not keisan. This I just threw in to kind of keep you on your toes here. This is actually a pluperfect. Okay, this is a third plural. Pluperfect. Active indicative. Okay, they're fairly rare in the Bible, but you do see them. Okay, when we get to John, you're going to see actually a fair number of them, believe it or not. John tends to be very fond of both the perfect and the pluperfect, but overall you don't see that many of them. But you should be aware that when you see a perfect like this augmented, okay, with a secondary ending slapped onto it, you're dealing with a perfect. Okay. All right, elabon, that should be straightforward if you know your principal parts. What is elabon? That's your second aorist from lambano, the word to take. Okay, so elabon is what form there? It's your first singular aorist, and I should probably specify it's a second aorist. No difference in meaning, of course, between the first and second aorist. It's just that some verbs take a first aorist and some verbs take a second aorist. This happens to be one that takes a second aorist. Okay, so first singular, second aorist, active, indicative. Okay, anything else it could be? Do you remember your paradigms well? If you do, you remember that this also could be what? It also could have been a third plural. Okay, second aorist. Because remember, how does it conjugate? It's elabon, elabes, elaben, okay, elabomen, elabate, and then back to elabon. It's sort of like the imperfect in that regard, where the first singular is the same as the third plural. Okay? All right, elabata. Elabata. All right, well, again, you should recognize this is going to be from lambano in some kind of a way, shape, or form. And the secondary ending is going to give away the fact that it can't be active. You're looking at something strictly middle here. But what? Okay, well, remember, men, so toe, so this is going to be what? This is going to be a third singular, okay, aorist, or actually second aorist, what? Middle indicative, okay, of what? Of lambano, okay? And so always keep in mind what the basic stem that this comes from is, okay? In this particular case, elabon doesn't look that much like lambano. I mean, the mu completely falls out of that form, okay? So just keep in mind that this is from lambano. You don't actually have to write this, but remember that, okay? Remember what that is. That's one of the reasons one of the many reasons we do principal parts, okay? So you can connect the base stem verb labato to all the forms in which it occurs, okay? All right. So back to this here, okay? Lelukate, lelukate. Okay. Again, that's pretty telltale sign. We see a kappa and a reduplication on the stem luo. That should scream to us perfect, okay? And indeed it is. So how about a second plural, because you got that ata ending here, right? So second plural, perfect, active, indicative, okay? Why not middle? Well, if it were middle, it wouldn't have the kappa here, but what would it have? It would be lelusta, wouldn't it? It would be something like this. Okay? But that's not what we have. Okay? All right. Alabate. Alabate. Well, again, you've got, clearly it's from lambano again, and clearly it's an aorist because it's sort of built off of this form here. So right away you should see this as a second aorist. Okay? And if I get back in English, you'll see it here too. Okay, you get your second aorist. Okay, but the ending here suggests what? Eta would suggest what? Second plural. So second plural, second aorist, active, indicative. Okay, I hope that's clear. But by now you should begin to recognize, you know, eta, ata. Okay, you're dealing with a second plural there. Those forms are pretty stable, and actually they're very similar to Latin as well. So if you've had Latin, that's even easier for you. Okay, so elaben, elaben. Okay, again, this is from elabon, but elaben. Okay, that n ending. Okay, in a second aorist, that's a you only see that in the third plural or third singular. I mean, so okay, so third singular. Okay, aorist. I should spell out again. Second aorist. Active, indicative. Okay? All right. Oops. All right. Elabes, elabes. Okay, well, if you know elaben, elabes is easy. That's the second singular. Second aorist, active, indicative. Okay? All right, elabu. That's a good one. Okay, elabu. When do we see elabu? Well, you got to know your paradigms pretty well to grasp that one. That's again a second aorist, okay, no question about it. Okay, it comes from elebon. But elebu, when would you see that? Only in that second singular form, okay, where you have the sigma falling away and you get the kind of weird contraction of vowels. That only happens in the second singular. So it's second singular, second aorist. But in this case, is it active? No, because if it were active, it would be this one. It would be elebes, okay? This could only be middle, okay? Middle indicative, all right? Could it be passive? No, that's a different form entirely. We'll meet that in the next couple chapters or so. Okay? Good. Okay, eluu. Eluu. Well, I threw this in to keep you on your toes here. This is actually neither a perfect nor an aorist, a second aorist. But what is it? Well, first of all, you see the lu there. That should hint to you, strongly suggest that it what? That it comes from luo. Okay? Comes from luo. All right, and what do we notice here? We notice an augment, and there's no sigma. That should scream to us imperfect. Okay, but when would you see this oo ending here? Well, when did you see the oo ending before? It's sort of like this, and actually for the same morphological reasons, we get this also in the second singular. So this is going to be your second, excuse me, second singular imperfect, middle, indicative. Okay, and I should spell out here in the imperfect, this could also be passive. Okay, so eluu. Alrighty, elabamatha. Okay, again, you should see this as being from elebon. Okay, so right away you can recognize some kind of a second aorist. Okay, that metha ending only happens where? In the first person plural. Okay. Second aorist, but notice it's not active. Why? Because it would be what? What would it be if it were active? It would be elabomen, wouldn't it? In Greek. Right? But we have this. Okay? So it's a second aorist, middle indicative. Okay? Strictly middle, not passive. Okay, what about elabanta? Elabanta. Okay, well again, you're dealing with some form of elebon. Okay, so right away, if you know your principal parts well, you know it's some kind of a second aorist. But what? Well, I notice here it's got a secondary ending. Okay, secondary ending, and that should hint to us as some kind of a middle form. What? Well, men so to, methasa unto. Okay, so into is the last one, so therefore it's third plural. Okay, second aorist, middle indicative. Okay? All right. Once again, another one to keep you on your toes here. What's this one? Eluanta. Looks sort of like elabanta, except you're missing the beta and there's no alpha. Different verb though, right? A different stem. This is from luo. This one is from lambano. Two different words. And furthermore, what? The epsilon and the lack of a sigma suggests what? Imperfect. Okay? This is an imperfect form. Okay? Furthermore, what else we have here? We have secondary endings. Okay, the secondary endings should suggest an imperfect middle passive. Okay, and again, just as before, this is going to be a third plural, imperfect middle passive indicative. Okay? Great. Let's take a break for a second and come back. Okay, we're back now. Let's wrap these up. Lelucon. Well, again, if you know your principal parts, this should be obviously from principal part 5, or I'm sorry, principal part 4 rather. This is a perfect, okay, from luo. So, and the on ending suggests what? When do you see that ending? In the third plural, right? Because it's a primary ending, okay, active ending. So we have third plural, perfect, active, indicative. Okay, lelukan, lelukan. So in other words, what would that mean? It would mean they have loosed, they have freed. Okay, all right. Going on here, lelukamen, lelukamen. Okay, same basic form. You've got the reduplication here, just like you had here, and you've got the kappa. What does that scream? Reduplication in kappa means what? It means perfect, and the amen ending suggests what? First plural. That's the only time you see that ending there, first plural in the active. So it's a first plural, perfect, active, indicative. Okay? All right, aluata, aluata, another one to keep you on your toes here. You've got the lu stem here. You've got an augment, no sigma. What are you left with? Imperfect, right? This is imperfect from luo, okay? And furthermore, you see what? The secondary ending there, menso to, okay? Methasa onto. So when do you see that ending? For a third singular, imperfect, okay, but what else? Middle, okay, or passive, indicative, okay? Why isn't it active? Well, if it were active, what would it have? It would be what? It would be eluan, okay? But eluata is the middle passive ending, and so that's what makes it middle passive. So what would this mean in English? Well, to luo is to free or to loose, okay? In middle, or passive, we would say what? If passive, it would say he was being freed. He was being untied. Or the donkey was being untied. Okay, something along those lines. Okay, if you took it as middle, you know, the donkey or the man was untying for himself something else. Okay, so that's how you'd handle that. Okay, elabes, elabes. Elabes is what? You've got from lambano again. This is another form of the verb to take, but notice the ending here. Okay, that should be fairly obvious to you that it's a second singular, second aorist, active, indicative. Okay, elabiste, elabiste. Okay, that's a good one. You got that ending here. Notice this is once again built on elabon. Okay, so again, second aorist of some flavor. What kind though? Well, esta is what? That's the middle passive ending, isn't it? So this is a second plural, second aorist, middle passive? No. Strictly middle. Why? Because the passive form in the aorist is distinct. Okay, so second plural, second aorist, middle indicative. Okay, aluamane, aluamane. Okay, again, this is what? This is from luo, not from lambano. Okay, you notice the augment, and you also notice the lack of the sigma alpha. This is a dead giveaway that it's an imperfect. That's really all it could be. Okay. Furthermore, you see what? Main, the main ending, which was what? That suggests a middle or passive ending. Main soto, methasa onto. So this is what? This is the first singular. Imperfect. Middle or passive indicative. Okay. I was being freed. Okay. I was being untied. Okay. Elabomen. Elabomen looks sort of like the imperfect of luo, but here we have what? We've got a second aorist of an entirely different verb, namely lambano. This is a second aorist. Okay. In what form? Again, the man is again the first singular. First singular, second aorist, what? Middle. How do you know? It's middle because of the middle ending here. Okay? If it were active, what would it be? It'd be would be elebon. Okay, but it's not. All right, so again, that's what we have. What does elabomin mean in English? Well, lambano means to take. So elabomin means what? I was or I took. Okay, but with sort of a self-referential nuance. So I took, I seized, I grabbed, with some idea that I'm doing it for myself. Okay, so if that's the first singular, second aorist. Okay, very good. That's the end of our second little round of Blackboard exercises. Next week, it's going to be a little bit tougher. I'm going to throw different verbs at you from a wider variety of stems. We're going to throw and basically open up the whole indicative system. Okay, so you need to really be on your toes. You need to know your principal parts to be able to handle that. Okay, so get with the principal parts. If you don't feel like you know them well, learn them when you study vocabulary. If you make flashcards for yourself, as I did when I was learning, make special flashcards for the verbs with all the principal parts on them, and make yourself recite the principal parts. Okay, in fact, what you could do is when you write the verbal, the verb in Greek, write all its principal parts out, write the English on the back, and at one point give yourself with the English word and make yourself give the Greek principal parts for it. Okay, just as you would start with the principal parts and then give the English. Okay, very important that you can do that. Excuse me. Okay, so great. I'll see you next week.